Here we go. Hello and welcome to NeuroChallenge Foundation for Parkinson's. I'm so glad that you have found us today. This is going to be an amazing presentation on how to become an empowered patient. And I am going to get to that in just a second. But before I do, a little bit of housekeeping. This is a Zoom webinar. So you will not be able to see each other. You're only going to see the speaker and me on this. If you have questions at any time during this presentation, go ahead and go to the Q&A bubble that's at the bottom of your Zoom screen and type the questions in there. That is the best way to get the question to the speaker. And there will be some time at the end of the presentation for her to answer any questions. Again, we can't see you put your hand up. We can't see any of those things, and we don't see your faces. We don't hear your voices. So please type in your questions, and we welcome all questions. And for those of you who don't know who NeuroChallenge is, we are a small nonprofit organization that serves the Southwest region of Florida. About 6 counties specifically that we serve. And since the pandemic, we really reached a much wider audience because we went virtual, like so many other businesses, and we started doing webinars and we started doing educational content that, was available online. And so we've attracted quite a large audience now from across the United States and even outside in other countries. So I welcome you if you're finding us for the first time. And please don't hesitate to reach out to NeuroChallenge. Go to our website, click around, find what you're looking for. We have so many resources. And that is why we like to do these webinars, because we like to bring some of the local resources to you that are serving people in our communities right now and that are helping people in our community. So without further ado, this is Peg Coppola. She is the owner of Gulf Coast Energy Spa, and it is located in Port Charlotte, Florida, for those of you who are in Florida. Or if you ever come visit Florida, you've got to go to the Gulf Coast Energy Spa. It is amazing. I was lucky enough to go and tour and experience some of the treatments there a couple of months ago, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I really encourage anybody who's looking for help with some certain ailments or certain needs that they may have with illnesses or healing. This is a place that you definitely want to explore. It kind of takes some of the pharmaceuticals out of the picture and gives you an alternative, an alternative. So, anyway, we're going to let Peg take it over here. And before I do that, just so you know, we are recording this and it will live on our YouTube channel. And that way, anybody who wants to revisit this information can do so, or if you want to share it with a friend. So, Peg, welcome.
Yes, thank you, April. Good afternoon. I'm so grateful to be here and that you've had a great experience coming to our center. Um, just a quick minute on me, I guess. My name is Peggy Coppola, officially Pasqualina, which is what you'll find my book under if you're going on Amazon. It's called Becoming an Empowered Patient. It's a book that published in 2021. I'll get into a little bit about why and how I wrote the book, but April is correct. I do now manage Gulf Coast Energy Spa. It's an energy enhancement center where people really come to heal themselves from all types of ailments. What I wanted to do is just quickly start by showing a video because some people may not fully understand why enhancing yourself with energy is such a critical factor, not just to maintaining good health, but also to restoring and regaining, especially if you've lost good health at some point. And it doesn't matter really what age, what stage of illness you may be at. It's good health is always achievable. So let me just share this with you.
Optimal health does not start outside of the body. It starts within, more specifically within the cells of your body. If your cells are not properly charged, you will experience disease as opposed to health. The cells in your body hold an electrical charge, otherwise known as millivolts. A healthy cell holds an electrical charge between 70 to 90 millivolts. In other words, sickness can be measured by a weaker charge in your cells whereas health is measured by a higher electrical charge in your cells. Through scalar wave technology and biophotonic light, the EE system gives a boost to the cells in your body, keeping them at their optimal charge of 70 to 90 millivolts. Spending time in this technology is like recharging the battery of your body, giving you more strength, vitality, and energy to thrive. Clinical trials have shown that the EE system technology assists in cell regeneration, neurotransmitter functions, immune function, and so much more. And this research has been acknowledged by many in both the medical and scientific communities. Thousands around the world are reporting benefits such as mood elevation, lower stress levels, pain relief across the board, increased energy levels, emotional stability, improved immune function, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. This is what the future of technology looks like. And the good news is it's already here. Hundreds of centers have opened around the world in just the past 12 months alone, and we've only just begun. Are you ready to experience what this technology has to offer? You can find a location near you at unifiedhealing.com.
Okay, thank you for that. How I got here. Okay, so, I went through a very traumatic time in my life. And as the saying goes, you grow through what you go through. So what happened with me was in 2016, I actually sustained a severe injury to both my shoulders and could not find relief. So, the book actually it evolved as a result of not just my injury, but also everything that happened along the way and how I actually went from, such good health to all of a sudden literally falling apart and having terrible health, and then not being able to find the answers that I needed, and then eventually becoming so grateful that I made it to the other side. And I made it to the other side really by stopping the noise, following my intuition, my critical thinking, and then most of all, doing a lot of research, especially with regard to alternative treatments that really ended up saving me. So, I injured myself in 2016. I had doctors that basically said, "There's nothing you can do. You're going to have to live with a shoulder that doesn't function." And after 2 years of multiple visits, I finally found one at the hospital for special surgery. He was a world-renowned shoulder surgeon. He only did shoulders, and he said, "This is an easy fix. Why'd you wait so long? You'll be back to yourself in 6 weeks." So he was the expert. He said all the things I wanted to hear. I believed him. I placed my life in his surgical hands. So, all right, how did that go? That did not go well. About 6 months later, and two shoulder surgeries to my right shoulder, I basically had a useless limb that was barely attached to my body. He basically said to me, we did a slash and burn because there was no way we could salvage it, and we knew that you'd eventually need a replacement. There's no way you can live with this shoulder. And we understand it's very painful, and we understand you're very inflamed. And this is just a matter of when would you like to schedule your shoulder replacement? It was not what I wanted to hear. I was a young woman with a lot of life left to live, and I knew that a shoulder replacement could set me up for a lifetime of more surgeries. So I went to multiple surgeons. I got more than two opinions. I probably got about five opinions. And the look on the surgeons' faces every time they saw my scans told me everything I didn't want to know. And it was basically, how is this woman living? So, when I asked them, is there anything else that can be done? They always said the same thing. No, cartilage doesn't regenerate. And so unless you get a replacement, you are never going to have a usable shoulder. And I thought, oh my God, this is what my life has become. Now, while all this is going on, my shoulder is becoming more and more inflamed. And what's happening is I'm developing systemic autoinflammatory disorders that I couldn't control. So I literally was living at the doctors. I was seeing cardiologists, I was seeing brain doctors, I was seeing neurological doctors. I was seeing more doctors than I care to remember because the systemic inflammation was full on and it was everywhere. Um, and all they really had to offer me was surgeries and prescriptions. And every time I looked at prescriptions and I did my research, I realized, oh my God, this is just a Band-Aid that might actually make me worse. So, I just was living with no solutions. And, that's when I realized I am living, literally living the dark soul of the night here. And I have one of two options. I can either give up, call it a day, and figure out a way to get me off the earth plane, or I'm going to have to pull myself up by my bootstraps and figure it out myself because every doctor I had seen up until that point had no solutions. So for me, I had a lot yet to live, and I was strong. And I said, I am going to make it. I don't know how, but I know I'm going to make it. So my dark soul of the night was actually my wake-up call to figure this out. So what happened to me during this process? Well, I spent a lot of time meditating and contemplating. But I kept coming back to this one point. The body heals itself. How do I know that? So we start out as two cells that come together at conception. And these two cells build themselves into this beautiful, intelligent human body with thought, with emotion, with spirituality, with physicality. And for the most part, our bodies keep us alive, keep us healthy, and keep us well for the better part of our lives. So I knew the body had the ability to get there, but something was really standing in its way. And I needed to find out how to clear the blockages so that my body could get back to healing itself. And that's when I really, started to realize that I needed to search for solution in unconventional ways. And I kept praying that divine intuition would just lead me down there. And when they say when you ask for something, boy, do you get it. And so the information just kept coming and coming and coming. And my gut kept sending me down rabbit holes. And I remember it was, 2019 at this point, and I found out that there was an article about how the body completely regenerates itself every 7 to 10 years. So we basically have the ability, every single part of our body, every cell in our body, every organ in our body turns over and regenerates itself. Some are faster, like livers, some take longer, like cartilage. The difference really is the organs that have easy access to stem cells can regenerate quickly. The ones that need stem cell to get to them, like cartilage, because there's no blood flow to the cartilage, they take longer. Those stem cells need to come from the bone marrow. So the bone needs to create the stem cells and then needs to move the stem cells to the end of the bone to get to the cartilage, where it can then affect change and actually start to rebuild itself. The process is doable, but it requires energy. And I want to go back to energy for a minute here because the thing that I guess was the disconnect for me is when you speak to medical doctors, they are always looking at us from a physical point of view or an organ specific point of view. So they're looking at us as physical beings. But what if I told you that we're 10% physical and 90% energetic? Would that change how you would view your own healing? And we know this is true because even Einstein said matter is made of energy fields and energy is life. So, when we're young and healthy, we break a bone, we're back to running in a couple of weeks as if it never happened. But when we get older and our bodies have been living through toxic conditions, or we get sick and we stay sick for a long time, then our bodies just are using up a lot more energy just to keep us alive. But the thought of regenerating itself becomes a little bit more complex. So I knew somehow I needed to get a lot of energy into my body. I just hadn't quite figured out how to get there yet. And again, the information just kept coming. So I mentioned I was doing a lot of meditating. And the reason I was doing a lot of meditating is because guided meditations can actually help relieve anxiety and physical pain. So I really did it as an alternative to pain medications. But what I found was I was also sleeping better. I was also becoming more hopeful, more grateful, which is really a strange place to be when you are very sick. But it was a way for me to understand that, hey, as bad as things are for me, there's got to be people out there that have it worse. And if they can live every day, then I have to be able to do the same thing. So, again, going back to energy, I started figuring out meditation's helping me, connecting with my spirituality and being grateful for my life and the blessings that I have, Those are great things. Then I realized, gee, I feel better when I'm standing outside, and I think I'm going to take my shoes off and ground myself. And I had no idea really what I was doing at the time, but I've since figured out the energy of the earth is matching and resonant with the frequencies that our bodies thrive in. So when we're literally grounding outside on the grass, barefoot, or touching trees or hugging trees, our bodies are picking up a frequency that is resonant with us and is signaling to our nervous system, hey, get out of fight and flight. You are now in a rest and digest mode. And what happens when the nervous system goes to rest and digest is the body says, gee, okay, I'm not stressed out. I can start doing the work I need to do. I can start detoxing heavy metals. I can start, speeding up the regeneration of cells. I can start doing a lot of things that I haven't been able to do in a fight or flight mode. And then, you look at sunlight. People seem to do well in sunlight, but why? Why do people do well in sunlight? Especially when they're not wearing sunscreen, which, by the way, nobody should be doing at this point. But sunlight is a form of energy. Light is energy. Light is energy. Energy is life. Sun is our main form of life. So, of course, if you're standing outside and you're grounding in nature, in the sun, you are going to feel better because your body is now tapping into an energy source to help itself. I noticed during this period also that there were certain foods I just couldn't eat anymore. Coffee, which I probably drink 3 cups a day. I couldn't even stand the smell of coffee. And I realized my body is telling me something. It's not right for me right now. It can't handle the the processing of coffee right now. But what I did find was, as I started doing research, and a lot of the stuff I found was, by the way, medical doctors that had healed themselves in non-traditional Western medical ways. I ended up finding Dr. Brooke Goldner. She was a doctor who had suffered for most of her life with lupus and blood clotting disorders. By chance, she had started to do a diet protocol to lose weight. She started juicing raw vegetables, raw fruits. She hyperdosing on flax and chia seeds, and she had eliminated pretty much anything processed, anything animal, anything dairy, and um, she ended up not only losing some weight, but she actually ended up reversing her lupus and blood clotting disorder and has helped multitudes of people reverse their own autoinflammatory issues. And now there's a lot of people that will say, well, meat is good for you and fat is good for you. Yes, absolutely. There is a diet for every phase in your body. But when your body is super inflamed and in need of very quick repair, it needs as much energy as it can get. And the nice thing about raw fruits and vegetables is they're growing in the sun. And we just talked about the benefits of the energy from the sun. So we're literally inhaling that energy that the fruits and vegetables are giving us. We talk about seeds, flax and chia seeds. Seeds are the most nutrient dense product that we can actually ingest. So if you are hypernourishing, doing seeds is actually a real benefit. We went through some of that, and I started to notice that, yeah, I lost a few pounds, but I felt much better. The pain was more manageable. My skin was glowing. So I knew I had, hopped onto something that I thought was really worthwhile for the state I was in, which was a very inflamed and autoimmune state at that point. I also started working with a physical therapist, but not just any physical therapist that has you do the bands 12 times, 3 sets. No, this was a yoga instructor that did one-on-one therapy with me. And she explained something very important. She said, in life, you are not going to move your shoulder like this, but you may be doing more of this. You may be moving in a more fluid state, and you need to prepare your body for your everyday life activities. The other thing about movement is movement creates energy. And so when you least feel like moving is probably the time you need to take that quick walk or stretch because you need that energy. So anyway, I kept looking for solutions and I was doing a ton of research. But what I did find at one point was I just kept looking for people who were healing themselves. And it didn't matter what they were healing from. It just gave me so much hope to know that people could do it. And if others could do it, I could too. And as luck would have it, somebody told me about some video about somebody who was treating brain injuries, and one thing led to another, and I came across a book by Dr. Deutsch. The book was called The Brain's Way of Healing. This is a pretty important book, especially for this community. And the reason why is Dr. Deutsch is a very well known and well respected psychiatrist who specializes in healing people from all kinds of brain related ailments in some of the most unconventional of ways. I just love the stories. I loved reading about how people were healing themselves and what they were doing. And, I'm reading through this book and I get to chapter 4. And chapter 4 in this book is all about healing with light. And I'm peaked at this point. And of course, a large section of the book focuses on a Dr. Fred Kahn. Dr. Fred Kahn was a surgeon. He was a surgeon who had sustained a severe injury to his shoulder in a skiing accident. Now, this is a book on brains, and we're talking about a surgeon with a shoulder injury. And I'm thinking, there are no coincidences in life, right? So, anyway, he went to see surgeons and they basically wanted to cut him up and do all kinds of surgical treatments on his shoulder. And I remember his words. He said, I'm a surgeon. I know what they do in surgery, and I know what they're going to do to that shoulder. And I know that the results are going to be poor. No, thank you. And I thought, gee, I should have read this book before my 2 surgeries. Anyway, long story short, he has a friend from Russia who imported back in the 60s a laser machine. He said, hey, I'm going to lend you this machine. Try it out, see what happens. His shoulder healed. His life was so turned around, he stopped doing surgeries. He actually started a company where he manufactures and distributes laser machines now out of Canada. So, it was just so enlightening to me. And I knew I was on the right track at this point. So I want to talk a little bit about, you know, why Dr. George's work was so important to me. He did mention in his book that he knew that where there is diseased tissue or damaged tissue, as long as the area around it is still in fairly good health, you can stimulate the surrounding tissues with energy. It clears up the degeneration and it starts the regeneration of the healthy tissues. And I thought, this is great. How does this work, right? So think about it a little bit, right? Energy turns on chemical processes within living organisms. So you probably heard a lot lately about red light therapy. And red light therapy is great. It's great pain relief, and it can also generate some healing. It stimulates some healing. But did you know that every single color has a different wavelength? And every wavelength carries different types of information. So why limit yourself to red light when you can have a multitude of lights and literally affect every organ and every system in your body? So what I learned from this is that, the light and the color is not just something that affects our skin. So you may sit in the sun and think, geez, I'm getting a nice tan, but it's more than that. It's skin deep. It's actually going in to reset the circuitry of your body and to reset the circuitry of your brain. So, in thinking about light, you think of a photon. A photon is basically just a small package of light, and this light is energy. So when these photons get absorbed by living tissue, they trigger this chemical process, and we have light-sensitive molecules within our body, in all of our cells, where the energy is absorbed and it's stored into something called ATP. ATP is a molecule. It's like an all-purpose battery. It stores the energy so that when your body needs it, it's ready, right? Very much like a battery pack on a cell phone. So this energy is actually used by our immune system, and it's used for cell repair. It also used to increase the oxygen that flows through our body. It improves our blood circulation, and by improving our blood circulation, it stimulates growth of new blood vessels. And that's especially important for healing. So when the body's stuck dealing with a lot of chronic inflammatory issues for too long, it begins to attack itself. And that's what we call an autoimmune or an autoinflammatory disease. So chronic inflammation has many contributors, including our diet and chemical toxins that become embedded in our bodies. But regardless of the circumstances or how long our bodies have been in a disabled state, everything begins to improve with energy-based treatments. So I talked about meditation, spirituality, grounding in sunlight, nutrition, movement and exercise. But the one thing that I found really made the difference when somebody was very, very sick was to have outside sources of energy and lots of energy compressed in short frames of time because you really want to see your body start to turn around and you want to see the improvement. And that's where these energy medicine therapies, which are also called biophotomodulation, come in. And they can really, really help heal and reverse conditions in a fairly short amount of time. So I'll talk to you a little bit about the Gulf Coast Energy Spa system. We have an energy enhancement system. It is probably the most biophotomodulation technology effective thing is that's out there. It's non-invasive. It relaxes the nervous system so the entire time somebody is in here and beyond, their body is healing because their body is in a state of rest and digest. We've seen multiple benefits, physical, mental, emotional, and we have so many testimonials. You can check on our website and look at it. I'll tell you a little bit about what this technology includes. It includes multiple colors, it includes light, it includes sound. It also includes something called sacred geometry. So when we look at everything in nature, everything is generating according to a mathematical formula. It's based on Fibonacci's work. We are actually using that in our technology, and it's a way to communicate with the cells and tell them, hey, it's time to regenerate. You're in a safe space. Let's get moving. We also have linguistics embedded in our technology, and we know our words create our reality. So words of positivity, words of wellness, of joy, of health and abundance are words our body hears and our body responds to. And those are included in the center in our technology. Now, since I'm talking to a group about Parkinson's, I thought this might be an interesting testimonial to share. This was a woman who had a very active husband who had developed Parkinson's in 2020, along with severe headaches. They had tried a lot of different things, including hyperbaric, oxygen, massage, acupuncture, dry needling, physical therapy, Botox, and pain management. And I'm sure they were all somewhat effective, but when somebody is really sick, you kind of need to go at it full guns. So in May 2023, they went to an energy enhancement system. And within 5 months, the wife wrote a beautiful testimonial. She mentioned that there had been a lot of positive effects, definitely an increase in energy and stamina for her husband, who is now becoming a little more independent with work around the house, able to do a little bit more exercise. His headaches were less severe. The tremors had decreased. His anxiety and depression had been improving. So all positive steps, steps that showed them that he was moving in the right direction when it came to his health. So, I'm going to wrap this up, and I'm sorry I've taken a long time, but I am a little passionate about this. But my point to everybody is where there is a will, there is a way. If you absolutely want to reverse your condition, there's a way to do it. There are some things, and there is some work to be done on your own individual side, because as I mentioned, nobody was coming to save me. I had to figure out how to save myself. So I spent a lot of time researching. Research, 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 and don't just Google search for medical solutions. I always started my research with alternative. Once I figured out that another visit to a doctor wasn't going to help me, I knew I needed to change up my search engine. And that's what I did. And that's how I came across incredible scientific research that is found in the NIH's website, the National Institutes of Health. It's our government's repository of all vetted scientific research. And in there, there's a multitude of information that you never really hear of. One of them that I came across recently was actually written in 2013 and published in the NIH for at least the last 10 years. And it's called, Is It Time to Consider Photobiomodulation as a Drug Equivalent? So 12 years ago, we were already talking about that. Why aren't we talking about it in medical circles yet? And that's my point. Do your research, but become your best advocate. Make sure that you know when something doesn't feel right, that you're not succumbing to it. If that drug prescription doesn't feel right, question it. See if you can find an alternative. If you don't like what somebody is telling you, do your research and try to figure out, is this person on point or is this Is there a different way to look at this? Is there a different way to come to the same outcome without doing more harm to myself? That's the most important thing. When you're sick, you want to do the least amount of harm because you want to get out of your body's way and you want it to heal. And the body knows what to do. We just need to get out of the way. Be patient. This is a big one. Sometimes I see people come into my center and they will feel great. And then for a couple of weeks, they may not really feel anything. And they'll say, gee, I don't know if this is really working. But then months later, they'll get their blood labs, and all of a sudden, we'll realize that all of their blood markers have improved. So, my point is be patient. You didn't get sick overnight, and your body's going to need a little time to get you back to where you are. But don't lose hope. Remain always in a state of gratitude. It is the most important thing you can do for yourself, for your mental health and your physical health. There were days where I couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I had a saying that I kept on my desk. Those who are certain of the outcome can afford to wait and wait without anxiety. If you are certain that your destiny is good and wholesome health, you don't have to worry about your day to day. You just do the things you know are pushing you in the right direction. And then finally, come try us. I'm in Port Charlotte, but we have hundreds of centers all over the world. And I am sure you will have a great experience no matter where you go. So thank you for listening to me. Thank you for hearing my story and for having me. And I would love to hear your comments and your questions.
Wonderful. Thank you, Peggy. Well, you and I are on the same wavelength. Like I'm a big proponent of, finding natural therapies, when you can. And also I love that you kind of started part of your talk, with something you found, that's so easy to do, and it's helped you. And I actually found this too, and it really helped me. It became part of my daily routine while I was trying to heal from something. And that is grounding, grounding yourself to the earth. And truly people like my friends and, family and circles that are, they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, I literally will put my bare feet in the grass, I hug trees. And I
Yeah.
know that sounds really strange, but the truth is the energy you receive from doing that, and the energy that builds up day after day in your system from doing that, as well as just the diminished stress you feel from that energy. It's just amazing. And I love that you kind of opened with that, because it's such an easy way for somebody to get a taste of maybe what they can experience with the energy enhancement system. Is just something as simple as grounding. Try that. Get a feel for that, and then be like, I really like this. This is natural, it's normal, it feels good, it's helping me. And then you can, graduate on to trying other alternative therapies.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me it was, especially when you're in a very depressed state and you're feeling a lot of pain, just getting out. And, as kids, we used to lay on the grass
Yeah.
and we were as happy as can be. And we didn't realize why. But, our body is just accepting that energy and it's storing it for a rainy day is really
Mhm.
what it's doing. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I love your story, and I love how you really like intuitively listen to your body, and I think that's really important. And I love the fact that you work gratitude into your daily practice as well. I tell people all the time we need to practice more gratitude, and that creates a positive mindset. And that positive mindset is what carries us through some of the darkest parts of dealing with a chronic illness like Parkinson's. You can really get through some hard times when you build up that positive mindset. And, making it a lifestyle change, right? Like making these little tweaks in your lifestyle for the more positive side. We're not saying this is, throw away your drugs, that your
No,
medications. We're not saying that. We're saying incorporate more of these natural therapies, more of these alternative practices, because they can help with some of the things that sometimes, other medications can't touch. So I I really hope that some of you go and try this sometime, at least go visit the spa, check it out, read more about it, go to her website. She has a lot of really great information. If you have any questions, go ahead and pop those in the Q&A right now. If you don't have them right now, but they come to you later, you can email me. I'll send the questions on to Peg, and she can answer you from there. But
Yeah.
really
I just
happy
put
to.
up my contact
Oh, very
information
good.
as well. Yeah, yeah,
Very
yeah.
good. Yes, yes. So here on the screen, again, this will be on our YouTube channel, but right now you might want to grab your phone and take a little quick screenshot of that so that you can see her phone number and her website. But definitely go check it out. It's not that far of a drive if you're in any part of Sarasota or Manatee County, Charlotte County, and I encourage you to go visit. So thank you so much for your time today, Peg. I'm really glad that you shared your book as well. Did you share much about where they can find your book? The one that
Well,
you've
my book
written?
is, yeah, so my book is on Amazon. It was published by New Degree Press. I also do have some copies here, but Amazon is an easy way to get it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah. So again, check that out because this is it's just a really great way to help yourself deal with some of the inflammation and healing your body. So thanks again
Yeah,
for your time.
thank
Let's
you.
see. I'm not seeing any questions pop in, but they might come in later. People might ask me something later by email, and then I'll get those out to you, Peg. But in the meantime, those of you out there who have more questions or want more information on Gulf Coast Energy Spa, please check out her website. And we will say goodbye. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you. Thank
Take
you, April.
care.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.